What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Wuthering Waves video. Let's talk about Xiangli Yao, Mr. Walmart Genos over here. The guy that looks oddly like a PS5? All jokes aside, if you're a Wuthering Waves player, it's probably an exciting time right now. Version 1.2 is here, and there's a bunch of new and exciting content to jump into. And just a bit after that, we'll be all getting a free Xiangli Yao. As a limited 5-star unit when we're only 3 months into the game, I'm sure he'll be a welcome and very powerful addition to everyone's account. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about. I wanted to talk about something I noticed recently that might raise some questions and concerns regarding the free Xiangli Yao and Kuro's strategy of giving him out for free. What I'm worried about is that Kuro might be missing the mark on the requirements and the time window to claim the free Xiangli Yao. And I'll obviously explain my rationale on why that can be a problem, but I think there's a silver lining here that might point to more free 5 stars in the future that you might want to stick around to hear. Remember, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me and it helps to keep this channel growing. Now without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's first make sure we're all caught up to speed on what we actually need to do to unlock the free Xiangli Yao. At the end of the version 1.2 trailer, we were shown a graphic that said in order to get the free 5-star, we had to participate in the event by Moon's Grace and meet a certain condition tied to the event minigame. When I first saw this image, some alarm bells were already ringing in my head, and you might be wondering, it's such a small and simple graphic, what could possibly be the problem? Well, the problem and the starting point for all my concerns is that based on the information in this graphic, the unlock condition for the free 5-star is event limited. Because the By Moon's Grace event is tied to the game's celebration of the Moon Chasing Festival, which is a representation of the Mid-Autumn Festival in Chinese culture, once version 1.2 is over, we won't be able to revisit the festival event. That'd be like being able to do a Christmas event long after Christmas has already passed. Naturally, this also means that we only get 3 weeks to claim the free Xiangli Yao, and it's directly tied to event progression instead of something that's just plopped into your mailbox. And here's where I begin to find problems with how Kuro is distributing this free 5-star to us. I know I sound hella ungrateful right now, nitpicking all sorts of details about a literal free 5-star, but bear with me here and hear me out. This is all for the health of the game and ensuring that Kuro can more effectively give these freebies to as many people as possible. The first problem is a timing issue. The bottom line here is that I think a 3-week window to claim the free 5-star is just way too short, when they could be using this free 5-star in so many more ways to help their marketing and capture a bigger audience. So what do I mean by this? I just don't think 3 weeks is enough for the free Xiangli Yao to have maximum appeal value to new and returning players. And I want to explain this with a comparison to how Honkai Star Rail handled their free Doctor Ratio. When Honkai Star Rail won the Game Award for Best Mobile Game, they gave out a free Doctor Ratio in celebration of it. The patch that they gave out the free Doctor Ratio in, version 1.6, was right before version 2.0 when the story would progress to a new region. Pretty similar to the case with the free Xiangli Yao, right? Xiangli Yao is being given out in celebration of the Moon Chasing / Mid-Autumn Festival, and judging by the Shorekeeper, the next patch will be pretty story relevant as well, since we'll be going to the Black Shores and hopefully learn more about the Rover's past. But here's the difference. The free Doctor Ratio didn't just expire the moment version 1.6 ended and his debut banner was over. He was claimable by anyone, no strings attached, no event progression needed until the end of version 2.1, nearly 3.5 months after he officially dropped in the game. And 3.5 months is a pretty big deal because 2 very important things happened in that time. The first is that in those 3.5 months, people were able to quickly figure out how strong Doctor Ratio was, which allowed word to quickly get around that Honkai Star Rail had a pretty good new player experience. Because not only do new players get the beginner banner and all the free pulls you get just by playing the game, which will eventually net you a standard 5-star and at least a limited 5-star, you also get a very competent DPS unit in Doctor Ratio. Obviously he's pretty team and setup reliant because of how his kit works, but when you're a new player who needs 2 teams to challenge endgame content, a limited 5-star is a limited 5-star. And 3 months is a good ballpark for people to get into the game and progress far enough where they're starting to understand the game's systems, get their first taste of endgame content, and actually share with other people what their new player experience with Doctor Ratio was like, and maybe spread that word of mouth to another wave of new players. You just simply cannot achieve that amount of progression and spreading of word of mouth in just 3 weeks. The second big thing that happened with Doctor Ratio was that right when his claimable period was about to end, we got Aventurine. Aventurine, a sustained character best suited for follow-up teams, was a very popular and charismatic character, and just so happened to share a lot of screen time with Doctor Ratio and had a very interesting dynamic with him. This obviously then led to a lot of social media engagement and discussion about these 2 characters together, one being the free and still claimable character, and the other being the popular flavor of the month character who just so happened to be his best pairing. This attention on Doctor Ratio was only amplified with the reveal of Robin's kit and the announcement of a Topaz rerun in the next version update. Robin would be the best in slot support for follow-up DPS characters like Doctor Ratio, and Topaz was the best in slot sub DPS to amplify follow-up damage, which Doctor Ratio does a lot of. All of a sudden, this created an enormous amount of new player and returning player incentive incentive, because in the span of just about a month, you could potentially have the best in slot follow-up team, an extremely powerful and meta-relevant team. And so what was initially a free 5-star to celebrate an award and drive up engagement in the game before a new region dropped, in the span of 3.5 months, it has been elevated into something that can allow the game to capture a bigger audience due to how much value this free character can have for new and returning players. So if you're following along, you can probably start to see why I think 3 weeks feels just a bit too short, right? Instead of the free Xiangli Yao just being a 3-week thing, why not extend the claim period to really let people have the chance to engage in that discourse and spread the word of mouth on what it's like to start or return to Wuthering Waves with a free Xiangli Yao, or bring him back in the story later on to have an interesting interaction with another popular character that then gets people talking. And if he's actually going to be the better Calcharo like a lot of people say he will be, why not extend the claim period until at least when Yinlin gets her rerun? That way, new and returning players have that extra push and extra incentive to jump into the game because the best in slot Electro team will be right there waiting for them. For the longest time, I felt like Wuthering Waves has been very shaky with their marketing, with some very high highs, but also some very questionable lows. But it's stuff like this where they could turn a celebration into something that can create a pull and incentive to play the game that would really help their marketing and outreach in more subtle ways. And I just feel like it's something they could really use to elevate the amount of engagement and discourse surrounding the game that they're just not capitalizing on yet. The second problem is an accessibility issue. They're giving out the free Xiangli Yao with 3 weeks to claim it, but the question is, who can actually claim it? The game has been improving its mobile performance, but it's still pretty wobbly. And most importantly, what about our PlayStation bros? Just a few weeks ago, we got our first look at the PlayStation build for Wuthering Waves, but the official release on PlayStation probably isn't coming out anytime soon, and definitely not in time for the free Xiangli Yao. And that's where the problems start to emerge. Remember how I was talking about generating engagement and spreading word of mouth about the game? Well, the thing about that is, it's obviously better and more effective for word of mouth to spread if you start with a bigger pool of people to get talking about the game. More people means more people talking about the game, which means potentially more people listening and getting interested in the game. So by doing this free 5-star event to get people to join or return to the game before they've even captured this PlayStation audience, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot here because they're immediately starting with a smaller pool of people than what they could potentially be working with. And the other thing is that if I know anything about gacha players, is that they hate missing out. So imagine what it'd be like for PlayStation players when Wuthering Waves eventually comes to PlayStation. They hop onto the game and give it a try, only to find out that they missed out on this probably very strong unit before they even had a chance to take an interest in the game or be able to play it themselves. And while it's ultimately a single player game, it does feel a little discouraging when you always feel like you're on the back foot in terms of progression and account strength. So it's pretty clear by now that there are some issues, okay, maybe issues is not the best word to use here, but missed opportunities when it comes to how Kuro Games is handling the free Xiangli Yao. But between all these missed opportunities, I see a silver lining here. The thing is, even though the claim window to get the free Xiangli Yao is pretty short, I could see this being part of Kuro's long-term strategy to give out more free 5-stars in the future. The more I think about it, the big reason why I think the claim window for the free Dr. Ratio and the free Xiangli Yao have such a huge disparity is because the free 5-stars are almost unprecedented in Hoyoverse games, let alone free limited 5-stars. Because of this, they kind of had to make the claim window longer because of how monumental of an event this is for their games. On the other hand though, Kuro already has a proven track record in their other game, Punishing Grey Raven, for giving out a lot of free limited 5-stars. So what this means is, the short time window for the free Xiangli Yao is very likely Kuro Games generating and testing engagement in the game, incentivizing people to play more actively, as well as setting a precedent for what could potentially come down the line. Because now with the free Xiangli Yao, people are talking about the game more and anticipating the next free 5-star. And knowing Kuro's track record, it's very likely they'll give out another free 5-star for their half-year anniversary, or their 1-year anniversary, or for another major Chinese festivity. And the moment that they do give that out, it sets a precedent for existing players and people engaging with the game, because then people would say, you should play this game because they frequently give out 5-stars that are actually quite strong. Oh, you're joining the game late? Don't worry, the game gives out a lot of free 5-stars so you won't feel too far behind. Oh, you missed the window to get that free 5-star? Don't worry, just stick around for a bit. They'll probably release another one soon. So, compared to how Honkai Star Rail handled the free Dr. Ratio, what I think Wuthering Waves is doing is they're taking a slightly different approach to serve a very similar purpose. They don't need the 5-star itself and what they do in the game, what their story is, or how this character interacts with other characters to be the thing driving engagement and incentivizing people to play the game. Instead, what their track record with Punishing Grey Raven leads me to believe is that they will turn this act of giving out free 5-stars into a regular event and use that as the thing that gets people talking about the game and recommending it to other people. If this silver lining turns out to be true and Kuro Games does plan on giving out a free 5-star every couple months, then I can totally see why they would limit the time window to get the free 5-star to only 3 weeks. I think my earlier criticisms still stand, and I think they could do so much more with how they use their free 5 stars to market the game, but I can totally see what they're planning and where they're going with this. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this topic. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye!